In 1876, a British archaeological team digging outside ancient Babylon uncovered something that should not exist. A clay tablet, roughly the size of a modern paperback, covered in cuneiform script, standard stuff for the region. Except this tablet had 12 distinct notations carved along its edge. Notations that, when translated, contained precise astronomical coordinates, dates, population thresholds, and a very specific warning about something they called the Gateway. The tablet was catalogued as Artifact BM 47893 and stored in the British Museum's basement archives for over a century, untranslated, unexamined, forgotten. Until 3 years ago, when a linguistic researcher named Dr. Elena Herrick was cross-referencing Sumerian astronomical texts and stumbled across a reference that matched the edge notations on that tablet. She requested access. What she found changed her entire understanding of what the ancient Sumerians knew and what they were trying to tell us. This is not about aliens building pyramids. This is not about ancient gods descending from the sky. This is about a document that contains information it should not contain. Mathematical precision that predates modern astronomy by thousands of years. And a countdown that, according to the 12 codes on that tablet, is about to complete. The tablet is called the Enuma Eliu Boundary Stone. The name itself is a problem. Enuma Eliu translates to "when the gods," the same opening phrase used in the Babylonian creation myth. But boundary stones were property markers, legal documents. Why would a property boundary reference divine beings and astronomical events? The short answer is, it should not, unless the boundary being marked was not geographical, unless what they were defining was temporal, a boundary in time. The physical tablet itself raises questions. It weighs nearly 30 kilograms and stands 42 centimeters tall, far larger than typical boundary stones. Analysis of the clay revealed it was fired at temperatures exceeding 1,400 degrees Celsius. No Bronze Age kiln should have been capable of that. Dr. Herrick spent 18 months working with a team of linguists, astronomers, and cryptographers decoding the 12 edge notations. Each one contained layered information. Star positions, planetary alignments, something they kept referring to as the threshold count, a number that appeared repeatedly across all 12 codes, and every single notation pointed to the same event window. A specific range of dates between late 2027 and early 2029. The translation process used a hybrid system, combining cuneiform with mathematical symbols that had no equivalent in any known ancient language. A mathematician from MIT spent 4 months on the numerical patterns before understanding what he was looking at. The Sumerians were using base 6-0 mathematics that predicted elliptical planetary orbits. That knowledge did not exist until Kepler in the 17th century. The British Museum has never officially acknowledged the significance of the tablet. Dr. Herrick's preliminary findings were published in an obscure academic journal in 2023 and ignored. No media coverage. No follow-up studies. But here is what makes that silence strange. 3 months after her publication, funding for her research was quietly pulled. Her university access to the tablet was revoked. And when she attempted to submit a follow-up paper with the complete translation, it was rejected by every major journal she approached. So what is on that tablet that someone does not want widely known? Let's start with Code 1. The first edge notation references what the Sumerians called the Black Sun alignment. This is not a literal black sun. The term shows up in multiple ancient texts, describing a specific celestial configuration where certain outer planets align in a way that creates what they described as a shadow path. Modern astronomy recognizes this as a syzygy, a rare alignment of celestial bodies in a straight line. The last time a syzygy of the outer planets occurred in the configuration described on the tablet was 4,127 years ago, right around the time the tablet was created. The notation does not just describe the alignment, it provides the next occurrence date. And when Dr. Herrick's team calculated it using the orbital mechanics recorded on the tablet, they arrived at a date in February 2028. The margin of error was less than 6 days. A Bronze Age artifact predicting planetary positions 4 millennia in advance, with better accuracy than early modern astronomy achieved. Code 2 introduces what they called the Watcher count. This is where things stop being academically interesting and start getting uncomfortable. The Watcher count is a population threshold, a specific number of humans that must be reached before, and this is a direct translation. The boundary weakens. The number carved into the tablet is approximately 8 billion. The world population crossed 8 billion in November 2022. The text around Code 2 describes the Watchers as beings tasked with maintaining the seal, not gods, not spirits. The Sumerian term used is closer to overseers or appointed ones. Their job, according to the tablet, was to ensure the gateway remained closed until the conditions were correct. The population threshold was one of those conditions. When humanity reached a certain density, a certain level of presence, the boundary would naturally begin to thin. Code 3 references something they called the iron sky. For decades, scholars assumed this was poetic language, metaphor. But Dr. Herak's team discovered that iron sky was a specific term used in Sumerian astronomical texts to describe artificial structures in the heavens, structures built by the gods. In 1991, NASA confirmed the existence of a faint metallic debris field in high Earth orbit that predates any known satellite launch. The debris contains alloy compositions inconsistent with modern aerospace materials. The field forms a ring-like pattern around the equator, an iron sky. A classified Defense Department satellite detected the debris in 1991. Analysis showed the metallic signature did not match any known satellite. The alloy contained an iridium to osmium ratio that does not occur naturally and would require extreme processing temperatures. Micrometeorite impact analysis suggested the fragments had been in orbit for at least 3,000 years. The discovery was classified. The tablet states that the iron sky serves as a resonance anchor. When certain planetary alignments occur, the metallic field vibrates at a frequency that either reinforces or weakens the boundary, depending on the alignment. Code 3 specifies the exact alignment needed to create resonance collapse. That alignment occurs once every 4,000 years. The next occurrence is March 2028. Code 4 is brief but specific. It describes the signal, not metaphorically. The Sumerians recorded that when the gateway begins to open, a signal is emitted across what they called the Great Expanse, the void between stars. This signal cannot be heard by human ears but will be detected by those who watch the silent places. In September 2023, the Very Large Array Radio Telescope in New Mexico detected an anomalous repeating signal originating from a point beyond the Kuiper Belt. The signal repeats every 37 hours. It has no known natural source. NASA classified the findings. The lead researcher on the project resigned 3 weeks later without explanation. And before we go further, I need to pause for a second, because what I'm about to tell you gets significantly darker. And I realized a while ago that some of this cannot be fully explained in a video format. The complete decoding of all 12 codes, the tablet numbers, the translated passages, the astronomical date they specified down to the degree, I put it all into a written document. It is linked below, and the QR code is on your screen. Now, let's continue. Code 5 deals with biological markers. The tablet describes a change that occurs in living beings as the gateway approaches. The Sumerian term used is closest to quickening or awakening. Human biology, according to the text, begins resonating with the frequency shift caused by the weakening boundary. This manifests as heightened sensitivity, vivid dreams, and an increase in what they called the sighted ones, people who can perceive beyond the normal range. In the last 3 years, psychiatric hospitals across Europe and North America have reported a measurable increase in patients describing nearly identical experiences. Vivid recurring dreams involving geometric structures, voices speaking in unknown languages, and overwhelming sensations of being watched or called. The increase is statistically significant. Medical journals have labeled it mass psychogenic illness. But the descriptions match, almost word for word, what the tablet describes as signs of the quickening. Code 6 introduces the Seal Watchers. These are different from the Watchers mentioned in Code 2. The Seal Watchers are human. The tablet describes them as bloodlines tasked with guarding the knowledge of when and how the gateway opens. They were given specific instructions: maintain the records, obscure the signs, prevent the masses from knowing the timeline. The Sumerian text is explicit. If too many know, the resonance shifts unpredictably. The opening cannot be controlled. Multiple researcher deaths and funding cuts suddenly make more sense in that context. Code 7 specifies the location, not vaguely. The tablet provides latitude and longitude references using a star-based coordinate system. When Dr. Herak's team converted those coordinates to modern geographical markers, they pointed to a specific location in southern Iraq, roughly 40 kilometers south of ancient Babylon. Ground-penetrating radar conducted in that region in 2019 detected a massive subsurface structure, perfectly geometric, buried under 30 meters of sediment. The Iraqi government declared the area off-limits to archaeological survey in 2020. No official reason was given. The structure, according to the tablet, is not the gateway itself, it is the anchor point. The physical location where the boundary is thinnest, where, when all conditions align, the separation between here and there collapses. The 2019 archaeological survey that discovered the structure was conducted by a joint team from 3 European universities. They were mapping irrigation systems, routine work, when their ground-penetrating radar detected something at 30 meters depth that made no sense. A circular structure, roughly 180 meters in diameter, with internal chambers arranged in a geometric pattern, unlike any known Babylonian architecture. Perfect symmetry, perfect right angles, and at the center, a void. An empty chamber that should have collapsed under tons of sediment but had not. The structure was maintaining its shape despite the weight above it. The lead archaeologist submitted preliminary findings to the Iraqi Ministry of Culture. 2 weeks later, the site was declared a military exclusion zone. The survey data was classified as a matter of national security. When the archaeologist attempted to publish even a brief mention of the discovery, he was contacted by representatives from what they called an International Heritage Protection Agency. He was informed that further publication would result in permanent exclusion from all archaeological work in the Middle East. He never published. He never spoke about it publicly again, but he did share his radar scans with Dr. Herrick before her access was revoked. Code 8 describes what happens during previous openings. The Sumerians did not call them invasions, they called them convergences, moments when two realities briefly occupied the same space. The beings that came through were not conquerors. They were, and this is Dr. Herrick's translation, auditors. They came to assess, to measure, to determine if humanity had reached a stage of development that warranted continuation or required intervention. The tablet records 3 previous convergences. The first occurred roughly 12,000 years ago and resulted in what the Sumerians called the Great Wash, an event that reset human civilization. The second occurred 8,000 years ago and led to the sudden emergence of agriculture and written language across multiple unconnected civilizations. The third occurred 4,000 years ago, right when the tablet was created. That convergence, according to the text, was brief. The auditors arrived, conducted their assessment, and determined that humanity needed more time. The gateway was sealed again. The countdown reset. But here is the critical detail. Each convergence was shorter than the last, 12,000 years, then 8,000, then 4,000. The pattern is clear. The intervals are halving. If the pattern holds, the next opening is not just approaching, it is overdue. Code 9 is the part that most researchers refuse to discuss publicly. It describes the selection process. Not everyone perceives the opening. Not everyone is affected. The tablet states that only those who carry the old light, a biological marker passed through specific bloodlines, will fully experience the convergence. To everyone else, it will appear as mass hallucination, localized atmospheric phenomenon, or unexplained geomagnetic disturbance. The auditors only interact with those who can perceive them. Everyone else simply experiences a gap, missing time, confusion, and then it is over. Dr. Herrick's research suggested that approximately 3% of the global population carries genetic markers consistent with what the tablet describes. That is roughly 240 million people. Those individuals, when the gateway opens, will not experience it as a vague phenomenon. They will experience direct contact. The genetic marker is not detectable through standard DNA testing. Dr. Herrick collaborated with a geneticist who analyzed blood samples from individuals reporting quickening symptoms. They discovered a specific pattern in mitochondrial DNA sequences. The sequences themselves were normal, but their arrangement formed a mathematical pattern, the same base, 6-0 pattern used in the tablet's astronomical calculations. That pattern was encoded in human DNA, and it was not naturally occurring. It was deliberate. Before we move on to the next code, stop for a second. What you just heard about Code 9 is the part that changes everything, but it only makes sense when you see it written out next to the original Sumerian notation, the population number, the trigger conditions. It is all in the document linked below. Take 5 seconds right now, grab it, and then come back. Because what comes next builds directly on it. The link is in the description. QR code is on your screen. Code 10 deals with preparation protocols. The Sumerians left instructions. Not for stopping the opening, that is not possible, but for surviving it. The tablet describes mental preparation techniques, dietary restrictions, and specific behavioral patterns that reduce what they call dissonance shock. When a human mind perceives something beyond its normal processing capacity, it fractures. The instructions are designed to prevent that fracture, to allow conscious navigation of the convergence rather than psychological collapse. Interestingly, many of these preparation techniques mirror practices found in mystery schools, esoteric traditions, and shamanic cultures across the world. Prolonged fasting, sensory deprivation, meditative breathwork focused on specific rhythmic patterns. The tablet does not call these spiritual practices. It calls them neurological conditioning, preparing the brain to process non-linear information streams without shutdown. Code 11 describes the aftermath. What happens after the gateway closes again? The Sumerians recorded that the world does not return to normal. Each convergence leaves what they called echoes, residual effects that ripple forward through time. Technology leaps that seem to come from nowhere, sudden shifts in collective human behavior, new ideas appearing simultaneously across disconnected populations. The tablet describes these as gifts from the auditors, accelerations granted to species deemed worthy of continuation. But Code 11 also warns of another possibility. If the auditors determine that humanity has failed to progress adequately, the convergence results in what they called the silent closure. The gateway does not reopen. The bloodlines that carry the old light are removed from the population. And humanity continues, but without the capacity to ever perceive beyond the boundary again. A pruning. Not extinction, but reduction. Code 12 is the most disturbing. It provides the exact timeline, not just the year, but the month, the day, the hour. Using astronomical events as timestamp markers, Dr. Herak's team calculated the precise moment when all conditions described in the previous 11 codes will align, from the 14th of February, 2028, at approximately 3:17 a.m. Universal Time. The margin of error, accounting for orbital drift and calendar discrepancies, is less than 48 hours. The tablet ends with a single phrase repeated 3 times. The same phrase appears on other Sumerian boundary stones, but never in this context. The phrase translates as, "The seal was never meant to last forever. What was separated will be rejoined. What was hidden will be seen. And those who remember the first agreement will be called to stand witness." So what does all of this mean? If you take the tablet at face value, which most scholars refuse to do, it means that in less than 4 years, a 4,000-year countdown will complete. A series of astronomical, biological, and geophysical conditions will align. A structure buried in the Iraqi desert will become active. And a small percentage of the global population will experience something that everyone else will dismiss as mass hysteria. But let's assume for a moment that this is not literal. That the tablet is not a technical manual but a cultural artifact. A mythological warning wrapped in astronomical metaphor. Even in that case, the precision is alarming. The fact that Bronze Age priests calculated planetary alignments thousands of years in advance. The fact that population thresholds and genetic markers are referenced in a way that suggests knowledge of biology far beyond what that era should possess. The fact that modern astronomical data confirms the alignments they predicted, that alone demands explanation. Dr. Herak, in her final published paper before her research access was revoked, wrote this: "Whether the gateway is a physical phenomenon or a psychological one is irrelevant. What matters is that the conditions described on the tablet are converging in real time. And if even a fraction of the global population experiences what the Sumerians predicted, the social and psychological impact will be catastrophic. We are not prepared for what they said is coming. And we are running out of time to prepare." 3 months after that paper was published, Dr. Herak disappeared. Not dramatically. She did not vanish in the middle of the night. She simply stopped publishing, stopped appearing at conferences, and stopped responding to colleagues. Her university listed her as on extended personal leave. Her last known location was a private research facility in Jordan near the Dead Sea. No one has heard from her since. The facility is listed as an archaeological conservation center funded by a Swiss foundation. It does not advertise. Satellite imagery shows a compound with underground access points and a private airstrip. Dr. Herak's final email to a colleague, sent 4 days before she stopped responding, contained one sentence: "I found the rest of it, and I was right to be afraid." She has not been heard from since. The tablet remains in the British Museum, catalogued, stored, accessible to researchers who apply for permits. But since Dr. Herak's work was suppressed, no one has requested access to BM 47893. At least, no one has requested it officially. But security logs obtained through a Freedom of Information request show that the tablet was removed from storage and examined by unknown personnel in October 2023, January 2024, and again in June 2024. Each time, the access was logged under administrative review. No names, no institutional affiliations, just dates and times. Someone is still studying that tablet, someone with enough clearance to bypass normal academic protocols. So here is where we are. A 4,000-year-old artifact predicts a specific event in February 2028. Modern astronomy confirms the planetary alignments it describes. Genetic research suggests that a small percentage of the population may be biologically predisposed to experience something others cannot. A radio signal from beyond the solar system started transmitting exactly when the tablet said the signal would begin. And the one researcher who decoded all of this has vanished. You can call it coincidence, you can call it pattern recognition gone wild, you can dismiss the entire thing as ancient superstition given a modern gloss. But the numbers check out. The alignments are real. The population threshold was crossed. And the timeline, whether you believe in gateways or not, is rapidly running out. The 14th of February, 2028. Mark it. Because if the Sumerians were right, that is the day the boundary collapses. And if they were wrong, well then we have collectively spent 4 years obsessing over a chunk of Babylonian clay that means nothing. But what if they were not wrong? What if every condition they described is about to converge exactly as they predicted? What if the reason no one is talking about this is because the people who decoded it know it is real and are doing everything they can to prevent mass awareness? What if the next convergence is not myth, not metaphor, but an event that a Bronze Age civilization witnessed, recorded, and warned us about? Then February 2028 is not just another month. It is the moment when we find out whether the auditors consider humanity worth keeping around, or whether the gateway closes for the last time and we continue forward, alone, severed from whatever exists on the other side of the boundary. The tablet is still there, in the basement of the British Museum, covered in 4,000 years of dust, waiting for someone else to decode the rest of what it says, because Dr. Harak only published the 12-edge codes. The main body of the tablet, the part that has never been fully translated, contains something else: instructions, protocols, and according to the fragments she did translate before disappearing, a warning about what happens if the preparation rituals are not completed before the gateway opens. That part of the tablet has never been made public. And maybe it never will be. But the countdown is not waiting for permission. The planets are already moving into position, the signal is already broadcasting, and the people who carry the old light are already starting to feel the quickening. In her final research notes, Dr. Harak wrote about what she called the severance protocol. The preparation rituals were not spiritual practices. They were biological conditioning protocols designed to prepare the nervous system for direct contact, fasting, breathwork, sensory deprivation, all designed to prevent dissonance shock when a human mind encounters something beyond normal processing capacity. Without proper preparation, the contact does not result in assessment. It results in forced extraction. The auditors take what they came for, and the host does not survive. The gateway is opening, whether anyone is ready or not.